This is Nathan Fantasy Football League Updates. Today, we unveil the number 3 team in the preseason polls. We'll get you their squad, their highs, their lows, and my predictions for their final record. All that and more next. Nathan Fantasy Football League Updates. Welcome back to another episode here on the channel, and we are here with the top 3 teams. That is right, we finally made it, and today we're getting you the number 3 team for the Fantasy League preseason polls. We've made it through revealing 7 teams already, and today we're gonna make it 8 with the number 3 team on our list. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below. Do you agree with my take? Do you disagree with my take? Do you think this team should be higher or lower? And as always, if you missed the last couple of episodes, go check those out. The last one was a great one. And as always, we'll take you through the top 10 real quick. We've revealed at number 10, the Rocky River Rough Riders, the Bay City Bunnies, the Grand Rapids Groundhogs, the Zest Meisters, the Guantanamo Bay Flying Squirrels, the Iguanas, and most recently, the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp. So those are the 7 teams we have revealed so far, and that leaves us with 3. The Brisbane Bay Bandicoots, the Empire Strikes Back, and the reigning champions, the Michigan Avengers. One of those teams will be revealed today. And let's waste no more time. The number 3 team in the Fantasy Football League preseason polls is none other than the Empire Strikes Back. That is right. One of the previous expansion teams to this 10-man league. They joined the Iguanas in the expansion league, and they have had a lot of success. They've made the playoffs all 3 years. The first 2 years, they finished as the 5 seed. And just last year, they finished as the number 3 team in the fantasy league. And now they are looking to win it all. And honestly, they made a ton of trades on draft day. They made a trade with the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp to move up in the second round and move back in the 3rd, 5th, and 7th. And then they pretty much traded their entire middle round of picks. They didn't pick till like the 7th or 8th round after the 3rd round. Kind of crazy, but they gave that away to the Grand Rapids Groundhogs to get another 2nd round pick. So, what will the Empire Strikes Back bring to the table? Well, let's meet that team. So, obviously when you pick 1 in the 1st round, 2 in the 2nd round, a 3rd round pick, and then don't pick again till the 8th or 9th, you got to cover your losses somewhere. And I think that the Empire Strikes Back covered their losses well, and we're going to see that right away. Let's check out the quarterback position. Their quarterback 1 is Jared Goff. That's right, Jared Goff is a part of a top 3 team as the quarterback 1. And now, granted, not a ridiculous amount of star power in Jared Goff, if you consider it. He's not really one of those top quarterbacks that you want to go out and get. But the Empire looked at this and said, listen, I have a situation where I need to cover my losses at the position player. If I worry about the quarterback, this team will not pan out well. So he decided to wait a little while on the quarterback till he could fill out his lineup, which honestly was a great call by the Empire because they were able to build a phenomenal position player built team, and the quarterbacks didn't turn all out that bad. Jared Goff is fine. He's a 14 to 15 to even 16 guy a week with the occasional 20-point game sprinkled in. He's going to be really consistent, and you don't really have to worry about those under 10 games very often. Jared Goff is a very sound and consistent player, and that's all you need at the quarterback position with, the potential down the board, which we'll get to. He backs Jared Goff up with Another very similar player, it's Baker Mayfield, who honestly played phenomenal most weeks. I had him last season, and Baker Mayfield really occasionally dropped the 25 plus point fantasy football game. He's got great weapons in Tampa Bay. He honestly looks a lot better than he did in Cleveland, and he's once again one of those guys that's going to be a consistent 14 to 15 guy a week with some occasional 20 plus point games. And that's what you need when you say, listen, I'll wait down the board for quarterbacks. So this quarterback pairing, I do not mind at all. This is a phenomenal pairing where obviously it's technically the weakest quarterback room in the league. Nonetheless, though, this is a consistent quarterback room that does just enough to compare to how good your position players are down the board. And now that we've looked at the quarterbacks, let's look at the running backs. And your first pick in the second round, you went out and got a running back in Saquon Barkley. That's right. Saquon Barkley will join the Empire Strikes Back this year. And I think Giants fans might agree that he did go to the dark side with a new home in Philadelphia. Obviously, Philadelphia wants to run the rock, but a little bit more on the Jalen Hurts side. And we know Saquon Barkley's had a injury history. So, I've heard a lot of people be like, I'm kind of steering clear of Saquon, and that is why I passed at Saquon at the number 10 pick. But nonetheless, I think Saquon Barkley's a fine pick. He's got great still potential. Obviously not the same get out of the gate speed that he used to have when he came into the NFL due to some injuries, but still, Saquon Barkley, an excellent pickup. The main thing is, can he get the red zone touches, or is it Jalen Hurts and the tush push scoring a ton? So it really comes down to that with me. Can Saquon Barkley stay healthy, and can he actually salvage fantasy points, or is Jalen Hurts and the tush push going to steal all of them? We saw what DeAndre Swift did last year, and most weeks he was viable as like a flex option, but when it came to the red zone, could barely get in because of the tush push. You back up Saquon Barkley with another phenomenal pick. You go out and get Travis Etienne Jr. Travis Etienne is another phenomenal running back. He really is. We were worried about Tank Bigsby behind him taking snaps, but he was awful last year, and I don't see him taking any more snaps from Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne, he's got that great connection with his quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, and he's great to be used in the receiving game out of the backfield, but he also gets plenty of rushing yards, and he's got great upside on both sides. So really an Austin Eckler of 2 years type back where he's great to get you those points per reception points as well as getting you those rushing yards. So again, a great running back room. I'd say this is one of the top 4 running back rooms in the league. Now we move on to the wide receiver aspect, and this is where the first round pick was used. You went out at pick 6 and acquired Justin Jefferson. That's right, Jay Jettis is a member of the Empire Strikes Back, and honestly, love this pick. I felt like Jay Jettis was kind of disrespected. I know Kirk Cousins is out of Minnesota, but that doesn't change the offensive scheme. They're going to try to get this man the ball however they can, no matter who's at quarterback, whether it's Sam Darnold or it's J.J. McCarthy. By the way, J.J. McCarthy looked excellent in the first preseason game for the Vikings, so he could be starting quicker than we think. But nonetheless, the game plan is to get Justin Jefferson the ball no matter what. This is a guy that I know down the board a lot of people would have liked. I know the pick behind you in the Brisbane Bay Bandicoots was also interested in Justin Jefferson, but nonetheless, phenomenal pick. The last 2 seasons I've had this guy, he is a monster, and as long as he doesn't repeat that injury from last season and that starts to spiral to a theme, this is a phenomenal pickup. Love Justin Jefferson as a member of the Empire Strikes Back. Then we move on, and in the second round, you got a slipping player. You got somebody who was falling down the board, and that's Puka Nacua. You paired up Justin Jefferson with Puka Nacua, the breakout rookie from last year. And honestly, this is a top 3 wide receiving duo in the league. The fact that you were able to pair up Jefferson and Nacua, because Nacua was falling, is crazy. This is even before the injury. So obviously, still have to monitor the injury to Puka Nacua. But still, this guy eats up targets for the Rams, even with Cooper Kupp there. I love that the Rams can be able to feed them the ball on both sides. Cooper Kupp gets plenty of targets, and so does Puka Nacua on the other side of things. And Puka Nacua is going to be crazy good this year once again, so love the pickup. Now we move to the tight end position, and honestly, you went out and got the best available tight end left. It's Dalton Kincaid. Obviously, he's one of those top options in Buffalo, and nonetheless, I think Dalton Kincaid could be a great pick this year. Obviously, he's returning from a year of work with Josh Allen. Obviously, still got to compete with Knox in that tight end room, but still, Dalton Kincaid is going to be phenomenal because of the lack of wide receivers in Buffalo that is going to allow him to hopefully break out and have a phenomenal season for the Buffalo Bills and for the Empire. Then we move on to the flex position. This is where you can see kind of what happens when you don't have a ton of picks. Your flex option is Tank Dell. Through the entire preseason polls, we've highlighted the fact that we don't know who's going to take over in Houston. Is it Stephon Diggs? Is it Nico Collins? Is it Tank Dell? I think Tank Dell's going to be very up and down, similar to all the Texans receivers. He'll have good games. He'll have bad games. He'll have serviceable games. Nonetheless, we have to figure out what is going on in Houston because that kind of determines how great this pick's going to be. Tank Dell, obviously, he's had a year to work with C.J. Stroud, but is it enough to take away from Stephon Diggs? I don't really think so. I'm kind of leaning towards Tank Dell being that third option on this Texans team. So at your flex position, a rough set of flex. So now we look at your defense, kicker, and punter. So the defense, you went out and got a top 5 defense in the New York Jets defense, which honestly can't mind the pick. This is a defense that, most weeks is going to be startable. I think a couple of weeks you'll need a waiver wire because obviously they're going to play some tough teams this season. But nonetheless, it was a phenomenal defense last year. I think that'll continue, especially if Sauce Gardner continues to not allow a touchdown. Looking at your kicker, you go out and get another Jet. It's Greg Zuerlein, the kicker for the New York Jets. I think the Jets' offense is going to be significantly better this year, and obviously that's going to lead to more extra points, and obviously if drives stall out, a couple more kicks getting up. Then we look at your punter. You go out and get the second best punter from last season. It's Tress Way from the Washington Commanders. Honestly, a great pickup there. Washington, a rookie quarterback in the building. They're going to be up and down punting the football. Then we're going to take you through the bench. You have a decent set of bench, obviously not one of the top benches, but I think it's a serviceable, solid bench. And you started out with another Commander in Brian Robinson Jr. Robinson Jr. obviously we don't know how that running back room is going to work with Austin Eckler being added, but he's more of the power back. He's more of the first and second down back where we think Austin Eckler will be the more change of pace and third down back. So he could have some good weeks, could have some bad weeks. You really just got to hit the right week, but it's not an awful pick. Don't mind Brian Robinson, but obviously it kind of depends on Austin Eckler or him getting the majority of the carries. But I also think Jaden Daniels' rushing upside could steal some carries away from Brian Robinson. Then we look at your wide receiver. Next in the bench, it's Christian Watson, one of those Packers wide receivers that were like, last season, he kind of played second fiddle to Dobbs and Reed most weeks. But obviously, the year prior, he was the guy in Green Bay. And obviously, he started the year injured last season. So we'll see what he brings to the table. I think it's going to be very week to week. If it's Dobbs, if it's Reed, if it's Watson. I think this is a guy that's just similar to that Houston offense where it's like, who's getting the ball this week? Then we move down the board. It's another running back. It's Najee Harris. That's right. You bring back Najee Harris, which a lot of people want to stay away from is, last season we saw the digression of Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren was used great out of the backfield and getting the ball. So we don't know. A new offensive coordinator in the building who loves to run the football. So there has been speculation that Najee Harris honestly will be back on the rise and could return to that form that he is the guy. He's going to get in the end zone as the power back, and he's going to be the lead back once again in Pittsburgh. So until we see that, I don't really know. I think he'll have his good weeks and his bad weeks, but those running backs in committees are very difficult to call on a week-to-week basis. Then you add another wide receiver in Rashee Rice. Rice, obviously, last season was phenomenal for the Chiefs. He was the main receiver. He was that guy. And this season, obviously, we don't know if he's going to play or not. We don't know if there's repercussions. We really don't know with Rashee Rice. So, don't know how to feel about this pick. Obviously, with the addition of Marquise Brown, with Travis Kelce still being there, and Xavier Worthy being added to the system, Rashee Rice probably not going to be as good as he was last year, but I think if he plays, he will still be a productive fantasy football player some weeks. Then you add a risky wide receiver, but I think every player should have at least one risky wide receiver on their bench, or rookie in this case, and they added Rome Odunze, the number 9 overall pick for the Chicago Bears in this year's NFL draft, and Rome Odunze, honestly, could be good, could be bad. Once again, Chicago, similar to the Texans theme where we don't know who's going to break out. Odunze probably going to be more of an outside guy for Chicago, and honestly, I like the potential. If he breaks out and has some phenomenal games, great. If he doesn't, no harm. He's on your bench. Then you add another rookie in Trey Benson, and I've heard a lot of hype for this guy. Obviously, James Conner, the lead running back in Arizona, has not been able to stay fully healthy in his entire career, and so obviously there'll be weeks where he might be sitting out, and Trey Benson has to be the guy. So here he is on your bench, and he could be a viable flex option, and if he ends up taking over the starting job, could be a week-to-week running back for you. He's got great power and great vision out of Florida State. And then finally, rounding out your bench, it's another wide receiver, and Brian Thomas Jr., the first round pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, it's once again, we keep going back to the Texans and Bears, but it's another situation like that. Gabe Davis is there, and so is Christian Kirk. There are wide receivers ahead of Brian Thomas, so he has to be able to separate himself and be able to stand out on a great option. Again, a risky pick. You finish it out with 3 rookies that could be good, could be bad. So I don't mind it, but obviously we've got to see if Thomas can be serviceable down the stretch and if he can get the football. So we've heard about this team. Main thing I want to point out, no backup quarterback. So I'd expect a waiver wire pickup soon for the Empire to go and get that third string quarterback. But here we go. Let's get you that prediction for the Empire. So my prediction for the Empire, obviously this is a team that's going to play in a pretty solid NFC division. I think this is a team that has a lot of great potential, but there's definitely some question marks, especially at the quarterback position. But as an NFC team, I think, you have some solid competition. And because of that, I think, and especially if the quarterbacks don't pan out and Saquon Barkley gets his touches stolen and Puka Nacua and Justin Jefferson don't produce as much as we're used to as they were last season, Dalton Kincaid and Tank Dell don't pan out, this could be a poor team, and I think that puts their floor at 4-10. A lower floor than the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp, but I think that's because a lot more can go wrong for this team, especially because you look at the quarterback position and things aren't stellar. Then you look at the ceiling for this team, and obviously Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield. The Baker Mayfield plays like a quarterback one and gets more consistent with the 20-plus point games. Jared Goff does his thing. Saquon Barkley looks like the Saquon Barkley of old. Justin Jefferson looks like the number 1 overall pick he was last year, and Puka Nacua continues to excel. This could be an 11-3 team. That's how good this team could be, and the crazy thing is still to me that they passed on quarterbacks till the later rounds. And so we've heard the floor. We've heard the ceiling. Where does that put them for predictions? I think it's very similar to what we're looking at with the Bowling Green Cave Shrimp, another 8-6 squad. I think this is going to be a team with its fair shares of ups and downs. I think they've got a team that could be concerned with some health issues, and I think that could hurt them on a week-to-week basis. But nonetheless, I think this is a very solid and strong team. An 8-6 finish for the Empire Strikes Back, a playoff appearance out of the NFC division. And because of that, I think an 8-6 final record is exactly where they'll be. It's a solid team. I think you covered the quarterback well down the board, and I think honestly, I love the position players outside of really Tank Dell and maybe Dalton Kincaid. But the bench obviously needs a backup quarterback down the stretch. But overall, I think this is a well-constructed team, despite the fact that you didn't pick in the middle rounds and the quarterbacks had to be taken late. So the Empire Strikes Back fall to our number 3 spot, and that leaves just 2. The reigning champions, the Michigan Avengers, and the Brisbane Bay Bandicoots will round out our 1 and 2 spots. We'll find out tomorrow who slides in at 2, and then we'll meet our preseason poll number 1. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know who you think tomorrow's reveal is going to be as well. But until then, we will see you tomorrow. Hope you have a good one, and we'll be back real soon here on the Nathan Fantasy Football League Updates Network.